friend once said to me that HIV was like diabetes today. It was, whatever. And I can remember thinking, diabetes is so not whatever. Diabetes is a really big deal. But thank God this film is not about diabetes. This film is about the implication of stigma on a particularly tricky virus and chronic illness.
What about me? What about me?
This is my mum. During the HIV/AIDS epidemic, she was a palliative care nurse in a metropolitan Sydney hospice.
It's only 20 years ago, but still at that time coming out was a huge issue. And we had one case of a mother coming to see her son. Her son had gone to the family about 6 months beforehand and come out and introduced them to his partner, and his father lost it. So they decided they didn't want to have anything to do with him. His mother did want to contact him, and when she did, her journey led her to the hospice, and he was already dead. It was terrible, terrible. But there were lots of stories like that. It's several instances of married men who hadn't actually told their families or their wives. It tore everybody apart because you were dealing with something that we knew nothing about. Education of the community was the Grim Reaper ads saying, if you do get this disease, you'll die. And that ad was right. If you did get the disease, then you died a horrible disease.
This is Miguel. He is a lecturer of bioscience and an advocate within the gay community.
I think there's still the idea that HIV is a thing for gays and drug users, and it's not the case. Reach out to other communities. Obviously, a campaign, they think that if they run it in Darlinghurst in Sydney, with a very high gay community, they've got more chances of reaching the people who are affected, but that doesn't mean that in Broken Hill there are no people infected with HIV. So that campaign should be global and should be more targeted to other populations.
This is Josh. He is a bioscientist currently working on his PhD and trying to find a vaccine for HIV.
In my opinion, the main misconception is that you won't get HIV, and people think it won't happen to them, but at the end of the day, no one goes after HIV, no one wants it. So you still need to remain sensible and not be complacent.
This is Abby. In 2012, she was 24 and living in Melbourne.
So I first became aware of an issue when I got cold sores. I'd never had a cold sore before in my life, and I had 2 or 3 break out on my lips, and they got progressively worse. I went to the doctor and just said, look, I've never had this before. I'd started a new relationship with a man a few weeks prior to that. So she gave me antivirals for the cold sores, and we did a standard STI screen, and everything came back clear. And then over the space of, a week, a couple of weeks, I just got progressively more and more unwell. So aches and pains, flu-like symptoms. I broke out in a rash. So the rash started on my arm, and I fell asleep and woke up and it had spread. And by this point I was feeling, really, really crook. The hospital didn't really have any suggestions. They gave me an antihistamine, thinking it might have been an allergic reaction to something, and sent me home. No, the HIV test was not suggested to me. So I'd presented at a GP 3 times. I'd been to emergency at the hospital, and it wasn't something that had crossed anyone's mind. And I asked for the test myself. I said to my GP, I think I need to be tested for HIV. And the response I received was, well, Abby, you're a young Australian woman. The chances of you having contracted HIV are so slim, it's probably not necessary.
When were you diagnosed?
In 2012, the 24th of February 2012. So I've just had my anniversary.
In palliative care, in AIDS, and whatever you deal with, if you listen, you'll hear. If you hear the story, you can be part of it.
Yeah, like as if you're young women having a conversation.
Does anyone have a bobby?
No, keep the ratty. Yeah. No, Nadia, you got to join them.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Which side do you go on?
Just keep walking in as a tree.